Hey guys, this is my 2020 Salsa Cutthroat. It's the Apex build, or at least it was the Apex build. It's a 58 centimeter bike. I liked the pink, and it was the only build that was available at the time. What I didn't like was the cable operated disc brakes, so I went ahead and swapped out for a GRX 810 rear derailleur and also the Hydro disc brakes. So I swapped the rear derailleur and both brakes, and as well as the front and rear shifter brake levers, although it's a 1x, so it's only got a shifter on the back. So this is Apex build, but with the brakes and rear derailleur swapped out. So it's still got the sort of low-end race face cranks and the entry-level wheels as well. But the point of this is I'm going to be removing the front wheel and replacing it with the dynamo hub that you may have seen in my previous video. So stay tuned for that. That's what's coming up. Maybe we'll do a time lapse on the wheel build, so you get a sense, and then we'll have a look again at the wiring on the bike and the light installation when we're done with the wheel build. So enjoy. Alright, so the wheel's off, tire, rotor, rim tape are off as well. And just comparing the two hubs, I think I'm going to get lucky here. The flange diameter is the same on the two hubs. And the width between the two flanges, this is inexact science here, but it looks like the dynamo hub is slightly narrower, but only by a millimeter or two. We'd have to do some triangle math to figure out how much shorter that'll make the spokes, but I think it's worth the old college try. So I'm going to tear down this wheel, and it's going to need to be torn down anyway, and hopefully I'll be able to reuse the spokes. So let's give it a shot. Okay, so the wheel's stripped. I've got the old hub and the new dynamo hub. The old hub is 220 grams, and of course the Shutter Precision Boost dynamo hub is 480. So a penalty of 260 grams to go to dynamo as far as the hub's concerned. And now when I was stripping the wheel down, my plan is to reuse the spokes, and I wanted to keep the two sides of the hub separately because there was a bit of an offset, and I'm glad I did, because the spokes on the non-disc side are slightly longer than the spokes that were on the disc side. Alright, so the wheel's done now. It's built up on the original Salsa rim. The old spokes worked fine, and here we are. I haven't taped it and the disc isn't on, but I'll do that in a time lapse for you guys. Sorry, I didn't get a time lapse of the wheel building process. I don't have a truing stand, but I was able to get the wheel nice and straight. What I did is I just put zip ties on either side of the fork and used that as my truing stand, and then I moved the zip tie up and onto the top and used that for making sure the wheel was round. So my plan is, I think earlier I mentioned that I wasn't sure about unwrapping the bar and mounting the light up here. I'm going to go ahead and spend that time and do it, because I think it'll be worthwhile having the light down there. So let's see what that's going to look like. I plan to have the light mounted there under the center of the stem. I think that should look good. And then the rear light is going to get mounted at the base of the seat post. Sorry, the lighting's not very good in here, guys, but right there. And then there is it looks like there's a hole here, and it looks like that's going to run along my top tube and pop out right here. And then I'll be able to tap into the front light, and then the front light wiring should go through this fork hole, and then I believe that fork hole, here we are up front, up there, and then I believe it feeds right down to, can you see that? Right there. And then it'll clip into the dynamo. So that's the plan. So we'll put the disc on, we'll wrap for tubeless, and then we'll make the connections and see how it goes. All right, so I wanted to mention one thing, and that's how I use this Gorilla Tape to make my wheels tubeless. I start opposite the valve hole. So there's our valve hole there. Rotate the rim 180 degrees. Sort of hold it tightly between my legs. And what I want to do is this is not quite half, it's a bit more than half, I should say. And what I do is, I'm going to have a bit of overlap here, and I push it down into the valley of the rim, as centered as I can make it, and then I go edge to edge, pushing it down, and so there's the tape, is edge to edge there, deep into the valley, and then I just make sure I'm centered, and I pull the tape back. It sort of tears along the same line, and I push it down deep into that valley as hard as I can to really get the adhesion in the center, and then I run my thumb along the edges to get a good seal, edge to edge, and then we go all the way around, leave a bit of an overlap there at the end, and then puncture for the valve hole. And that's the trick. Not much to it. Lights are on. I'm really glad that we unwrapped the bar. I reused the same bar tape, obviously, but I'm really happy with that. Was totally worth it, 20 minutes it took me. So the light is dead center underneath the stem, looking sharp, out of the way. It's not going to cast any shadows from the housings there. And then the rear light is connected here, just with a couple of the Garmin rubber bands that you connect your Garmin mount to your stem with. I prefer those. This is the one that came with it, but it's really bulky and it's got this tab on it that might catch on something. So I chose to use the Garmin ones instead. Well, I want to show you one thing over here. It's really neat what Salsa's done. And they've got a lined passage for the wiring. So this is my tail light. I'm going to wrap it underneath the seat stay and into this opening here. And without any hassle at all, I'll feed it right through. And because it's lined, it just pops out the other end. How cool is that, eh? There we go. Done. And then on the same on the front with the fork. We'll come here, we'll get the input wire to the dynamo, or from the dynamo to the light, and there's a hole here in the fork, and it'll pop out right down that right hand side fork leg, right to connect to the dynamo. So push it in. Well done, Salsa. I thought I was going to have to fish these through and it's going to be a big headache. There it is already. Get that out of the way. So here's my wires coming out down here, and I'll rotate the hub, get the connector on there, and then we'll tidy up the wiring under here with the tail light and the connection to the light up there. I'm going to leave a bit of extra wire, and I'll just tie it or tape it underneath the stem for now, and I will tidy it up a bit later. Looking good so far. I'm happy with how this is turning out. Stand by. So here we are. We're going to make a connection here between the tail light. The little tail light doesn't have an internal battery in it or an internal capacitor. The capacitor lies in the headlight. So when the dynamo stops rolling, you come to a stop, the capacitor holds the charge and can run both the headlight and the tail light for a short period of time. They call that stand time. So they need to be connected, obviously for dynamo power, but also for that stand function as well. So I'm going to strip just a little bit. I've been battling with the connectors that came with it, like the butt splice type connectors, and then I thought I'm just going to solder them. I'm comfortable soldering. I don't mind doing it, and I think it'll make for a clean installation too. So that's what we're going to do here. So really not exposing a lot of wire here. Maybe I should have done a little bit more, but we'll see how it goes. This is going to be a pretty well protected connection, so I'm not too worried. So what I'm going to do is slide on this outer jacket. That'll insulate and support the whole the two spliced wires once we're done. I like to twist the strands together just to make sure. Maybe I'll strip a little bit more here. Oh, there they are. A little bit more and a little bit more. So the first thing I'm going to do, let's twist them again. The first thing I'm going to do is tin these wires. So I've got my soldering iron here. Pretty amateur soldering iron. I got a little bit of solder. So I'll tin the tip with a soldering iron, and now hopefully you can see what I'm doing. I'm just going to tin the conductors. Just get a bit of solder on them. Just a bit. That's it. Just a bit of solder. Not a lot, just a little. Again here. Heat it up just to get a bit of solder on it. So I've tinned all four. This one's got a big blob on it, so we'll remove that. And I'll make sure that I've tinned the first one. Looks good. All right, so now I'll clean the tip of my soldering iron. Maybe apply a bit more solder to protect it there. And now I've got two small lengths of heat shrink. I'm going to slide on there, so I'll do the blue first, and then I'll do the red. Okay, so we're going to apply heat. That's it. Look at that, there are no sharp edges. We can clean them up a little bit afterwards. There's not much to it, eh? Because both wires already have solder applied to them, all you need to do is heat. Apply a bit of heat, and you don't need any more solder because it's already there. Pretty neat. So we'll try and get these wires close together, and then this might pose a bit of a challenge. And then we'll see if we can connect these. So I'll slide my heat shrink over both. We'll heat it up, make sure we're covered there. Those look pretty good. Slide the outer one over both, and we should be good to go. Make sure it's centered. Feels about centered. We'll heat again. There you go. So we've connected, I think that's the only connection we really have to do. We've connected the rear light to the headlight, and now the connection to the fork is, or to the dynamo, is not a soldered connection. So that's it. We'll tuck this up tidy underneath the stem. That'll give us extra length that we need maybe to get it out front if I choose to go aero bars on the bike. And that's it. So we're getting close there, guys. It'll be up and running in no time. Thanks for sticking around. So the last thing we need to do to complete this dynamo installation is connect the headlight wires to the dynamo. And now the dynamo wires run up through the fork like we've discussed earlier, and they're separate. At some point they come out of the sheathing in the fork and they separate from each other. So in order to ensure the best chances of survival, I've got a piece of heat shrink here that I'm going to run over the two conductors, and once we have the connector on there and the wires in the right place, I'm going to shrink that on just to protect the wires where they enter the fork against abrasion and that sort of thing. We just want to give it the best chances. So I've got the two conductors ready to go. They have to be stripped to roughly 16 millimeters. I like to twist the strands so they stay together, and then you slide on the, I should say this is a Shimano connector that I'm using with the Shutter Precision Dynamo hub. It's totally compatible, it's no problem. So you slide in the two conductors, and then you bend them up, push them into the channel. The wires at no time should ever touch each other once installed, so that's why I like to twist the strands together to make sure they stay together and don't get out of line. And that's it. You just push them into the channels, and then there's a black bit that clicks on. You'll hear the click. That was sort of a weak click, but that is engaged in the back there. So now we've got a positive connection between the wires and the connector. So now what I'm going to do is bring down the heat shrink right down close to, yeah, I think that's going to look sharp. So right down close to the end of the connector, or to where the wires enter the connector, and then I'm going to shrink that down, and I think that'll give us good chances for survival out in the wild. And then we'll align the output tabs of the dynamo. So you can see there's the output of the dynamo right there. And I'll rotate it back so it's sort of it's hidden from you guys, but it's also hidden from impact. Tighten it up with the tabs vertical so the wiring has the least, it's not run in the open for very long. We want it to be protected inside the fork and not out where it can get damaged. So the wheel gets tightened, then we'll pull down the connector. Sorry about the lighting. And it should, you should get a positive click, difficult to do with one hand. You should get a positive click into the connector on the hub. There we go. Connected. That's it. Let's give it a spin. We got light. How about that? Well, thanks for sticking around to the end, guys. I'll post a, I'll go for a few rides, vet it, see how I like it, and then I'll do a light comparison. Right on. I hope you enjoyed the video. Give it a like, make a comment, and I'll get back to you. Thanks again. Enjoy the ride out there.